Welcome, you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Heal Joy Black Joy podcast. I am Lola Troy, the host and curator of Heal Black Joy, the learning platform for our community to heal our Black joy with tangible and attainable programs for the mind, body, soul, relationships, and businesses. And in today's conversation, you guys, we're going to be talking about healing Black joy through past and present love and connecting the two. Today, my guest is Val B. He's a dating and relationship advisor. He has a master's in psychology from the University of Hartford. Val has been in business for the last 3 years this month. His mission is to help you cultivate and or maintain the healthy dating and relationship lives that you deserve. He also holds sessions, whether it's for singles, couples, understanding the dating scene. Nothing is off the table. His only ask, come ready to work. Please feel free to message him with any inquiries. He also launched his own podcast that we're going to be talking about tonight called The Intricacies of Dating and Relationships. It's available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So I'm going to try to get our relationship guru in. Welcome, 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 all that have joined. Hi, my brother.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
How's your day been going?
Oh, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's been a very stressful day.
It's been stressful.
It's been a stressful day, but I'm home, relaxed. We're here together. I'm excited to get this going.
I am too. I think because we are in the month of love, we talked to a beautiful Black couple last week. We're in the month of Black history. There's been this conversation surrounding love, surrounding Black love. Black love is back on the rise. So I'm super excited about that. Like, I know you're super excited about that. Tell me your journey in becoming that relationship guru. Like, what was your journey? How did it get started? What was your passion about it? Talk to us about that.
Okay. So I guess I would have to start back in, honestly, high school, like the 10th grade or so.
Yeah.
I always, ever since I've been growing up, so my father actually told me this story. He always tells me this story, the fact of I always liked speaking to people. He talked about, we had this little fake phone that my mom had bought me. And my dad was just like, why would you buy them that? He knows it's fake. He likes to talk to people. He'll know. So the phone would ring, and he said that I would just run around, and pitter patter, and then pick up the phone and just say hello. But it just goes to show, just growing up, he always knew that I was really good with speaking with people, wanting to speak with people. So back to like high school, I always found myself the shoulder to, I don't want to say technically like cry on or anything like that, but just to hear what's going on and things of that nature. I normally would not put myself in those positions, but people would gravitate towards me and just, speak to me about things. Just like, okay, this is me not knowing what's going on. I'm still learning what I'm good at, things of that nature. So then I was put in a therapy group. We were put in a therapy group, 10th grade. And it was like a, round circle, just talking about our days, men learning how to emote and things of that nature.
Yeah.
At the time, I was just like, why am I here? Why was I supposed to be put in this group? Little did I know, I loved the group. Absolutely loved the group. I loved speaking my mind. I liked speaking to help other people, learn from my experience, learn from their experience, things of that nature. And then it just multiplied and evolved into relationships and dating. People would want to sit down and talk to me about that. They would think that my relationships were successful, their definition of successful, not my definition, And one day my friend was just like, you should just start taking advice at a church, at a local group, something like that.
Okay.
I downplayed it, of course. I was just like, I don't know yet, you know. But the more that I really thought about it, and the more I actually put myself out there, I saw that I was actually really good at giving this advice,
Mm-hmm.
and then more importantly, I was good at listening. I was very good at listening to people. So I finally decided to make it a business 3 years ago, as you nicely said earlier.
We
Um,
celebrating.
yes, you know,
Yes.
and it's been so great. You know, people from high school are just like, I remember you used to give me advice, and now you're doing this now. Like it's full circle. I love it. So
I
that's
love
kind
it
of like where
too.
it
And
comes from.
what's so beautiful about that journey is as we get older, what happens is it takes us back to what we loved when we were younger, right? What
Yes,
our passions were. We were always getting those nuggets of this is what you're good at, this is what you're talented at, this is a part of your gift, whether it's listening, hearing people from a very pure place and a very humble place, but also to be able to take in what someone says, troubleshoot it, and then give it back to them in a way that they can understand it. So
exactly.
when I think about my own journey, I was kind of like you. I mean, people would just walk up to me and start telling me their life story or telling me, what was going on with them unwarranted, right? But I was able to take in the information and then kind of offer them something, in return, like just an encouraging word or just something that would probably be a nugget for them, on their
Yes,
journey of what they were discussing. So I totally identify with what you're saying because I believe that along the journey, the creator always tells us what we're supposed to be doing, what our journey, our pathway to what we're supposed to be doing for life. So
yes.
I totally identify with that. Um, with that being said, let's jump into some more questions.
Sure.
So when we were talking, when we met prior to having this conversation tonight, I know we talked about the dating time of the past as well as what dating looks like now present day. And I was sharing with you, some of my dating journey and some of my past love journey, and I was very amused at what you thought about what was going on in present day versus how we dated and how we were in relationships, in my 20s and my 30s. This generation is a little bit different. They love different. Their style of dating is different. The way that they court I don't even want to say court. That's a strong word. The
Yes.
way
Yep.
that they express love in today, present day, is very different than how we were. And I'm in my 40s. So can you kind of connect the dots for me? What does it look like present day? And what are some elements from, let's say, the past that we can bring to present day where we're still, getting into relationships and it can be successful?
Okay. So I'm going to start with the last part because I think that's so important. You mentioned the word courtship, courting, strong word, right? That's definitely the number one thing I think that we can bring from the past to the present. Absolutely. Because courting, it's almost, I don't want to say that it's gone, because there's still those individuals out there who learn from their parents or their grandparents, or just somebody who has an old soul, who understands how dating was back then and they want to bring it to the now because they saw that it was successful,
Right.
you know. But those are few and far between right now, unfortunately. People these days, this generation, everything is more what's the word that I want to use? It's easier. It's easier. It's easy to get what they want, for lack of a better term. You know,
Easier
it,
access.
easy, yes, easier access, not having to do a lot of work to get, whatever it is. You already know what I'm talking about.
Right, right, right.
So, it could be as easy as, and I'm not putting down anybody who does this, but it could be an easy date like McDonald's, for example. Because the bar has been placed so low now. It's not even funny. But individual, okay, they would take them to McDonald's, for example, and then they can get into the pants kind of thing. It's easy. It's so easy comparing now to back then. Back then, you had to do the work. But more importantly, you got to know somebody. You got to know what they actually liked, what they didn't like. You were intentional about that, as opposed to just going with the motions now and just be like, okay, I know what my end goal is already. I know what I'm trying to get. So I'm going to try to fake it till I make it, get what I want, and then I'm out. You know?
So let me just say this. I want to make a declaration, and this is for all of my Heal Black Joy tribe. When you pray at night, I need you to ask God this: Lord, deliver me from the bare minimum. Deliver me from the bare minimum, because we have got to get to a point, and now we're getting ready to take a turn for a second, because when you were saying that, what's going on in present day dating or present day love, present day relationships, this is just what I've been seeing from my vantage point, is we are accepting the bare minimum and people are offering the bare minimum.
Yes.
And that's on both sides of the spectrum. That's in any relationship, whether it's a heterosexual relationship or not a heterosexual relationship. People are just are asking for the bare minimum, right? Or they're making that be their measuring stick of what they desire or what they want in their relationships. Yeah. I think what is happening is we take what we are. So if you're accepting of the bare minimum, that means you're also accepting the bare minimum from yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And people don't see it that way.
And people don't see it that way. And it's like, you've got to work on yourself and deal with that self-love and fall back in love with yourself before you take that step and that journey into courtship, into dating. And I don't think people do that because they don't want to deal with themselves. So to distract them from dealing with themselves, they would rather spend more time with other people, whether it's friendships, family members, relationships, to try to fulfill them instead of trying to fulfill themselves within themselves.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep. Some people like to try to get under somebody else just to get over somebody else. You know?
Oh, I've heard that. The quickest way to get over somebody is to get under somebody else.
No, it's a waste. You know, I'm just going to piggyback just a little bit. There's individuals who's able to do it. If you're able to do it, kudos to you. That's just not the life that I live, and I don't believe in that.
Right.
Because they're soul ties. Soul ties is true. They're real. I strongly believe in that. You know, but people are so afraid to go back on what you were saying. They're so afraid to work on themselves, to figure out if they had a relationship that quote unquote failed. You know, they don't want to sit there and be like, okay, what did I do to contribute to this not working? What did I do? They're so busy saying, well, they did this, they did this, they did this. You got to point at yourself as well. What did I do? You know, and then you have those individuals as well who like to say, okay, well, I'm just going to wait on my next person. Why are you waiting for? I hate when they say I'm waiting. I'd rather say this is my season of revitalization. You know, I'm working on myself. I'm finding out what I like, what I don't like, what I can deal with, what I can't deal with, my love language, you know, things of that nature. So then when that actual right person walks into your life, you can actually keep them as opposed to pushing them away because you haven't worked on yourself at all.
That's amazing. You know, it's crazy that you say that about love language and let me work on me, right? So I was talking to a brother the other day, and he said something that was so pivotal to me. It was so transformative to me. And we were talking about love languages, and he said to me, you know, the whole love language book, if anybody knows about the 5 love languages, and that is acts of service, touch, spending quality time, gifts, and then the last one is, I'm trying to remember what the last one is. Oh, words of affirmation, right? And he said, because that book was written by a white counterpart, they didn't incorporate some of the other love languages that Black men identify with, which is to provide and protect. Because to them, how they were groomed in their Black home, in our Black culture, providing and protecting is a love language for Black men.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we've adopted this, oh, I just want to deal with the 5 love languages. And he said, yes, I do want to be able to not only provide and protect and then give you the other love languages that you identify with. However, I might not have learned that growing up, and I don't know what that looks like. And he said to me, as a Black man, he wants Black women to give Black men the opportunity to learn that, because they were never taught that growing up, which I thought was super duper interesting and such a nugget for me, because it's like in my friend group, in my sister girlfriend group, we talk about these things, and it's just like, well, this is my love language and this is my love language. And we never talk about the love languages that Black men identify with. And they do identify with providing and protecting as a part of their love language.
I love the fact that he's not being stuck in the box of just the 5 love languages, and he's able to get outside of the box. I love that 100%. I guarantee you there's a lot of people that never saw it that way. Never saw it that way.
I hadn't even seen it that way because nobody had said that to me before. But I do know, when I think about my brother, when I think about my dad, that's how they identify. I know this. This is what I've seen growing up. So I'm sure, even in my male friends, I know that they identify with that. Right? But they also might be struggling in relationships because their girlfriend or their wife is like, well, I need you to affirm me, or I need you to buy me gifts, or I want quality time with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for that, of course. Demanding it, different story. If they're able to provide it, great, But I don't see, now that you have the brother that told you to just think outside the box, I'm sitting here thinking, and we actually talked about this. Sometimes the love languages are coming from a place of pain. Just the fact of you want physical touch because you wasn't hugged or kissed or shown emotion that way when you was growing up,
Right.
You see other people doing it and you're just like, oh, that's nice. I want that too.
Right. That's what you desire. Yeah. Because of you not getting it growing up, whatever that is. A lot of times people that want physical touch or people that need words of affirmation is because either the people that need words of affirmation, 9 times out of 10, they don't get that love language, or it's the exact opposite. It's where they had a parent that was extremely critical of them.
Yes.
Or they didn't affirm them at all.
Yep. Agreed.
And in our culture, Val, every conversation I have, whether it's a coaching conversation with a client or just in my colleague group of therapists or of coaches, they all say the same thing when we're talking about the collective of Black people. And that is, we don't base our love in being. We base our love in doing. So as children, when we were growing up, it was performance based.
Yes.
So we knew that we were loved if we performed a certain way.
Yes.
And it was a reward system. It was never based in, you are just who you are as my child, and I love you because of that. No, I love you because you got good grades and you didn't talk back in school and you are respectful of adults. And you know what I mean? It's that reward system. So when you learn love from that vantage point, it's kind of hard to transition as an adult into a person that has this expectation that if I do things for this person, I'm in performance mode. And I know that, from that performance mode, they're going to love me.
Yeah.
So in your dating or in your experience as a relationship and dating coach, are you finding that your clients struggle in that area because they're performing and they're having this expectation that the person is going to love them based off of their performance?
100%. 100%. I definitely see it in individuals. I'm sure you
Wow.
do too. I'm sure
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, well, why doesn't this person love me? Because I do this and I do this and I do this and I do this. And why don't they love me? And you're like, because love is not based in performance.
No, that's where you came from. But that's not what everybody else came from. That's like people will not even recognize what you're giving because it's Chinese to them. They don't know it. They've never been experienced or introduced to that language that you are speaking to them.
Right, right. And then let's talk about how you fall in love. Somebody might fall in love with a person, but it's not really love. You're trauma bonding because it's familiar.
Oh my goodness. I think more people tend to do it than they actually realize. Now, I believe that there are trauma bonding relationships that work. I absolutely do. I do.
Really?
I absolutely do. Only because if they recognize that they got together based off of that, and they both together try to do the work with a coach, a therapist, or if they can truly do it one-on-one, have that open transparency, creating that safe space for each other to have this conversation, and actually build something from there, I absolutely believe that the relationship could work. But if it's just relying on that and that only, without doing the work, without, trying to cultivate anything from that, no, it's just a crutch. And then when that crutch is gone, you yourself as an individual will have a hard time trying to find yourself again.
I wanna shout out my brother Leon. He's actually the brother I was talking about with the love languages of providing and protecting. I was just expressing about our conversation and how you were talking about how Black men identify with providing and protecting as a part of their love language. So shout out to you, Leon. We're going to be talking to him in the next month with some really good content as well. So can you tell our Heal Black Joy tribe? I know there are trends in dating now because, like I said before, people date totally different in 2021, 2022. It's not how I grew up. Where someone courts you and they get to learn you and who are your people, you know what I mean? Like where I'm from in the country in North Carolina, it's just like, okay, who your people? Meaning I need to know who your parents are and who your grandparents are and who your aunts and your uncles and everybody in your family. Because if I know your people, that's going to validate you as a person in the sense of, I know this person is not crazy, and I know they come from good stock, and I know they're going to be respectful, and I know they're going to be loyal, and so on and so on and so on, right? But now we're in the age of COVID. We're in the age of online dating. We're in the age of everybody has this avatar, meaning their representative. They're putting out their representative versus who they actually are. So you don't really know who their people are, right? Because now we're just seeing people on social media. If they look good, if they, talk good, then, hey, let's talk. Let's get it popping.
That easy access.
Access.
And I think you can actually answer this too. I feel like, especially nowadays, it's so much more easier to get into somebody's home for the first date. In your time in courtship, has that happened? How long does that take?
Absolutely
That's a while, right?
That's a while.
Okay. The first date, or even before the first date, it's just like, hey, can I come over kind of thing. And most people are just like, okay, easy access. There's not a lot of work that needs to be done these days. And then on top of that, it's usually, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you bring to the table? I hate saying that it's like a transaction, but honestly, it kind of is.
It's a
You know,
transactional type of relationship.
yes, as long as you can provide for me, then I'll think about what I can do to provide for you.
So let me ask you this then, because it's based in transaction. When are we going to get back to the basics of, it's not because transactional relationships, I mean, everybody has a transactional relationship, whether they want to believe it or not, you know, whether it's with your family, it's a reward system. Like what I said, you know, I'm basing my love off of how I perform for this person. So if I perform a certain way, then they're going to love me. That's a transaction, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm performing to get some love from you. So that's a transaction. So with that being said, what is it that men and women can do, regardless of what type of relationship they have? You know, what can they do so it's not leading with transaction? How do we, you know, how are we trying to get to know people like anymore? Like it's because it limits us because you're dealing with people online.
Yep.
So you don't really know them. So what has been your go-to with your clients when it comes to getting to know a person? How long does it take before you decide that you're going to go out on a date with a person? What are those clues? What are those tips that you tell your clients?
Okay. So now, because it's 2020 and the age of COVID and all that stuff, I ask them to do what we're doing now. Face to face. Well, you know, face to face.
Right.
You know, you want to know if this is a real person, because these dating profiles, they could put up a picture that was like, you know, 10 years ago when they looked their best. You know what I mean? And then when you see them in person, you're just like, oh, I almost didn't recognize you. But you truly didn't recognize them because that was a picture from like 10 years ago, you know?
Right.
So I always say to get this going first. We have Zoom, we have FaceTime, we have Instagram Live. You can make this work seeing each other face to face in this sense.
Right.
So that's the number one thing that I say, you know, because we're in the age of 2022 and COVID, I feel like catfishing happens more often. You know, you said it earlier with the whole bringing your representative, you know, people are very good at speaking, you know, and saying whatever they want to say that sounds great. You know what I mean? Because again, you're not hearing their voice. They're typing to you. They can
Right.
say whatever they want to you, you know. You learn so much more when you're face to face with an individual. You know, there are individuals out there that are okay with going out now, which is great. You know, you do your thing. You need that contact. You want to see how they are. Mannerisms matter. What they say and how they say things matter. Do actions matter? You know, understanding if they have a temper. You know, that's one of the biggest things too, because you don't want to be in a situation, especially if you're on a first date. You got to the first date. Conversation has been great. You feel comfortable to go on this date. But you say something wrong and they flip. You're just like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. This wasn't the person that I was actually talking to. Who is this person? You know? Spend as much time talking to the individual before you even get to see them physically in person going on a date. Like, don't put yourself in that predicament. There was a young lady a couple of years ago who did, and she died. It was on the news. He ended up killing her, you know? And I'm just like, it makes me so sad. It makes me so upset. And I want to prevent as many individuals from going through something like that. Just take more time. Learn from the past generation. Take your time. We got to slow down. That's another issue, too. We're so fast this generation. Slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said a mouthful there, because I think what happens is, because people don't slow down, you don't get those cues. Whereas if you're spending the time to get to know someone, does their conversation via text match their conversation in person? Because a lot of times people can give you that representative in words, whether it's their friend telling them what to say, their friends that are girls that are telling them what to say. And then when they get in front of you, they can't match the same conversation via text or via, in person that they do when they're texting you. It's very confident when it's texting, right? But when they get in front of you, that conversation might not match what they're saying via text. So I
True.
think that's key too. And then understanding the cues. Are they consistent? Are they
Yes.
consistent? That's the other thing that I notice about today's dating scene is that people don't feel like they have to work to get to know you. So if they don't, if someone doesn't call you back, the whole ghosting thing, like, you know, women have this thing where they want an answer of why.
Mm.
Men don't necessarily want to give a reason of why. Can you explain that? Because I know I've had that situation happen. I know my friends have had that situation happen. I know my Heal Black Joy tribe women have had that situation happen. So, from your perspective as a man, what is ghosting about? Is it that you just don't want to take the time to say, "Hey, we don't have a connection"? What is ghosting about?
I think a lot of men don't have the capability or don't want to work on the capability of being genuine enough to say that this isn't working out for them and they just want to cut ties. I feel like just ghosting it makes it easier for them. Ghosting it means that they don't have to um, take the time to actually just give you an explanation. There's a lot of men that don't like giving explanations. You know, you ask them why, they can get upset because maybe past trauma that they're not even aware of. Why are you asking me why? Like I said what I said, you know, kind of thing. Um, some men genuinely don't want to hurt feelings. I have to admit that there are men out there who do not want to hurt feelings, but technically you still are because you're ghosting somebody.
Right.
You know, especially if they made that connection with you. Like, granted, you may not feel that connection, but they might feel the connection to you. You know, but you're just gonna cut it off cold turkey. You're ghosting them. That affects women. That affects
Right.
some women. Some women can deal with it. Some women can't. You know.
Right.
But I'm heavy on the fact of there's a lot of men that are afraid. They're afraid to actually have that conversation about this isn't working out. They can't explain why, or they don't want to explain why. So they feel more comfortable with just cutting off ties. Don't have to say anything. Just you're out of my mind.
Wow. And move on to the next.
And move on.
Wow. Okay. So you're saying that ghosting is equivalent to I don't want to waste my time. I just don't have the verbiage to tell you that there's not a connection there, or they just genuinely don't want to hurt the person and they just, you know, move on to the next.
Yes.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
cool. What do you think about women? Because there are a lot of online dating apps now. One in particular, like my couple last week that I interviewed, they met on Bumble.
Nice.
And Bumble, yeah, Bumble is a platform that is specific for women, right? Where if you get on it, a lot of times the dating apps are to the liking of the man, if it's a heterosexual relationship, where the man gets to swipe on the female that they like based off of what they say in their profile and what they look like. On Bumble, the man can swipe, and then the woman gets to make the decision on whether or not she wants to swipe on that person as well.
I like
Well,
that.
when they get into that hive or whatever it's called, I can't remember what it's called because I've been on Bumble before. The woman has to make the initiation to talk to the male first. Okay. What do you think about women taking the first step in dating? Is that because from my generation, that was never the case. Women would always wait for the man to make the first initial contact. So what do you think about women? Should women make the first contact, or should they be really traditional in the sense where they wait for the man?
Okay. So I think this is just a little bit subjective.
Okay.
Now, I'll give my straight opinion.
Okay.
I don't see anything wrong with it. I absolutely don't. I think it's invited. I think it's great. I feel like women are so afraid to do it sometimes. But there are some men that welcome that. But then obviously there's a whole slew of men. I actually had a client who did this. He was upset because a woman tried to come up to him and I don't want to use the word court, but get to know him, you know, flirting with him. She's making the first move. And he said that he felt like it belittled him. It made him less of a man. That's what he said to me.
Really?
I disagreed with him, but I wanted
Okay.
to understand his reasoning though. Like, why? Why do you feel this way? And he said, because it's something that I'm supposed to do. Why is it something you're supposed to do? This is what I saw my father do with my mom, stuff like that. I'm just like, okay, I get it. But we're in 2022. Things have changed. Things have evolved. Wouldn't you at least invite the thought of a woman who actually thinks you're attractive, came up to you, let you know that she believes you're attractive, and she wants to start a conversation with you? Like,
Right.
what's wrong with that?
Right.
Just trying to change the mind frame. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. So that person seemed to want to mimic what he saw or model what he saw growing up, which was a very traditional sense in
Yes.
how they dated and what he saw in his home. Shout out to the date coach. He said, high value women don't have time for nonsense. So drop the number and move on with your awesome life.
Hey, that's true.
So I think, and this is just for me in dating and my singledom. I would say that I'm a little bit more traditional.
Okay.
And it's not that I would not ask a guy out, but I think that, if a guy asks me out first and I feel comfortable, we have this connection, I wouldn't mind asking a guy out, but I don't think I would do it on the first day.
Gotcha.
I
You
would,
would just build it up kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm a traditional kind of girl in the sense that I feel like if the guy wants to ask me out, then he should ask me out first. And maybe, maybe that's why I'm single.
Don't even say that. Okay. Let me ask you something.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, okay, where are we? We're at a paint night.
Okay.
Paint night's going on, and you're just painting, and you see somebody across the way, but you see them making eye contact with you. Okay, you look up, you meet his gaze, but he looks away. He does a little the smile thing, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now somewhere in there, you gather that he is shy. He may not make the first move to approach you, but he clearly seems interested because you caught his gaze, let's say 3 times. And the last time, you guys smile at each other, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But he's still not coming over.
Mm-hmm.
Would you go over?
I don't know. I probably would and start talking to him just to see like if there was a connection there.
Okay.
But I would still, even if I went over to have the initial conversation, I still would have the expectation that if he wanted to ask me out, he needed to ask me out. I'm not asking first.
Fair. That's fair. Gotcha.
So I would welcome the opportunity in the sense that I would go over to give him the opportunity to ask me out.
There we go.
Does that make
That's
sense?
What I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
yep.
Because a lot of times I do know this, and this is from my friends. This is from my male friends. Like you said, sometimes it could be intimidation. They might think, because sometimes I have resting bitch face. I don't mean to, and I've been working on it. So that's why I purposely smile all the time now, because I don't want to have resting bitch face. So with that being said, a lot of my male friends say, Lola, you sometimes will come off intimidating because of your confidence, because of how, your gaze and how you stare. I feel like I'm a warm person, but if I'm thinking about something, because I think about things all the time, because I'm just in the mode of thinking about things as an Aquarius. That's what we do. We just think about things all the time. A lot of times it's because I'm not necessarily tuned into the fact that this person, he might have caught my attention, but I don't want him to think that I'm standoffish or I have resting bitch face. So in that instance, yes, I might go over to say, hey, how are you? And introduce myself, just to put that person at ease, to say that, hey, I'm not an intimidating person. Yep. Let's have an even playing field. Let's chat it up and see if there's a spark there.
Gotcha. So
you see what I mean?
You're kind of sort of halfway, but he needs to seal the deal.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. The date coach said shy guys unfortunately stay shy, and women end up leading through the entire courtship. I don't know
I'm
if,
iffy on that one.
yeah, I am too.
I definitely, the date coach, he invited me into his group. I appreciate him. So thank you for joining, date coach. Truly
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. I don't
I
know.
see it differently, just a little
I
bit.
see it differently too, because even though I feel like I have a very strong personality, behaviors don't change. No, they don't. But I am also a very, very girly girl. I'm very type A in the sense of in my business and in my
Yeah.
job, I have to do, I'm very organized. I'm a leader or whatever. But in my dating life, I don't want to be in charge. And I think a
Gotcha.
lot of women have that problem where they don't want to be in charge, but men assume that they do.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I I've
Yes.
seen it a little different, and I think it's because of the generation. I think it's because of the generation. And I'm speaking from my personal experience and what I've seen in my sessions as well. So me, for example, my last relationship before I got married, I wanted to be the leader, and I was the leader. But because of my leadership, I feel like it contributed to the detriment of the relationship. So, for example, this individual, she didn't finish high school or anything, right? And I wanted to help her at least get the GED so she can get places, because nowadays you don't necessarily have to finish school to be successful,
Right.
things are
Mm-hmm.
changing.
Yeah.
So I was just like, at least get this, just to get her motivated and more, what's the word I'm looking for? Ambitious.
Yes.
She lacked ambition. And I saw it, but I didn't want to call her out on it. It was her mom that called her out on it as well and told me about it. And I said, okay, I feel the same way. But the first time that I tried to introduce this to the conversation, she was just like, whoa, you're overstepping, kind of thing. And at that time, of course, I did not understand it, but now that I'm old and I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, maybe it was my leadership, that contributed to the detriment of the relationship. What do you think about that?
Okay. You want me to keep it all the way 100 with you?
100%. Yes.
I think that if someone does not have ambition, I don't know if that's something that they're going to get when they're 25.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
ambitious people have always been ambitious. And I
Gotcha.
think people that like to live in that space of mediocrity, like right above flat line,
Yep.
I think a lot of times they're right above flat line and they are comfortable there. People don't like to be uncomfortable. So if they go outside of their comfort zone, then sometimes it can become offensive when somebody is putting a mirror in their face and they're like, hey, you really could be doing X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times it's a program from their childhood where they lack the
Yes.
confidence, they lack the ambition because either somebody in their family, somebody that they trusted, like their parent, said to them, you know, you're a bad child, or you're lazy, or and they've taken that into their psyche. So with them
Yep.
taking that into their psyche, a lot of times it's a program that runs in their subconscious that's telling them, hey, I'm lazy, so I'm really not going to ever achieve anything because I'm lazy.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
really don't
Mm-hmm.
even need to try to execute being ambitious because I'm lazy. So that's something that they're going to have to work on if
Yep.
they wanted change. But a lot of times people don't really want change. They're happy being exactly who they are, how they are.
True. True. So had to leave. Had to leave
Absolutely. And that's
because
when you
I'm
know that
Mhm.
doesn't work for you.
Exactly. I'm too ambitious for that. I want to go somewhere. I want to make something of my life, and I want to leave a legacy for my children. I can't do that being lazy. I can't do that.
Right. So I have a question for you then for my
Okay.
Hill Black Joy tribe. So I have a friend who was also a former guest on the show. Her name is Dr. LaCara Foster. And she said, when you're in a relationship, when God has left the room. That's her example of, when the gig is up, right? A lot of times we stay in relationships way too long, longer than we should have stayed in, because we ignored the signs of someone not having ambition. We ignored the signs of, you know, somebody not being compatible with us and what we're trying to achieve in life. What do you say to those clients, or what could you say to the Heal Black Joy tribe in recognizing the gig is up and it's time for you to move on?
First thing I would say is don't make up stories. Whatever's in front of you, whatever you're seeing, you know, sometimes we like to cover it. Oh, it's just because of this. Oh, they're going to get here one day. You know, oh, they're doing this, all this stuff. You mentioned earlier consistency. You know, oh, they started, they just had a bad day, you know. Consistently making excuses. Stop making up stories. That's the number one thing, because we're not dumb. You know, there's a good chunk of us on this world. We are truly not dumb, and we like to see the good in people. They can be great people, but they can be a bad partner for you. You know, the relationship could be over. You know, the relationship could be over. You know, but you guys can be great friends. Great friends.
Right.
You just aren't meant to be together. You guys are not compatible in that sense. You know?
I think a lot of times, as you said, stop telling stories. It's we romanticize and make people out to be more than what they really are, to try to match our idea of who we want them to be to us. So what we'll do is we will raise this avatar. They're being this person, which is really, you know, basic, normal person. Not saying that they're a bad person, but we have this desire for them to be super attentive and super loving. And our fantasies, exactly, our fantasies are powerful. So we romanticize about these people in our minds, and we start telling ourselves these stories, and we tell our friends these stories like, oh my God, he's so great. He is just awesome. And we're dying inside because he's really not the person that we are claiming that he is or that she is.
Yep, 100%. Because you're afraid of how it's going to look. You know, you don't want people to make fun of your relationship. You just want them to seem like they're the best thing, you know, but then you go home, you know, your mental health is affected, you know, you're tired, you don't even want to be next to this person. Why do that to yourself? Stop making up those stories. You know, if you notice the things that are going on, that's terrible. Don't try to put roses and sunshines over it.
Put a bow on it.
Yeah, just stop it. Just, it is what it is. Get yourself out of there.
Yeah.
You deserve better than that.
And then he said, we want closure from the person we thought, you know, that we thought we were in when it ends. Like, we want closure. So it's almost like we put this unrealistic expectation of them on them, and then we blame them for when it doesn't work out.
You're blaming them for your bar that you got for them.
Yeah. Not for who they are. We're not accepting for who they are. So this is another thing that I want to ask you, because I've seen this in my own dating life, and I've also seen it in some of the lives of my friends, where they will be dating someone, and because of that, you're holding the person hostage, because this person has this expectation of you to be something that you're not, right? So one of my former guests said, you need to date what you want. He said, don't date who you want, date what you want. Meaning, when you go after what you want, then you're going to get what you want, versus I'm dating who I want. I have this aesthetic that I want, right? But let's say the person is beautiful. They have all the bells and whistles aesthetically of what you want. However, when it comes to the connection, the conversation, how we treat each other, it might be super duper toxic. And then that person, instead of dating what they want and they get who they want, now I decide I'm going to clip your wings and try to make you digestible for me. So then it becomes this, well, yeah, you're beautiful, but you're not you don't communicate well. So why don't you talk to me? Why don't you, spend time with me? Why don't you do this? So it's like you're trying to mold this person into being the person that you need for you and not allowing them to be who they are.
Yeah. No, big X for me there. And so when you say aesthetics, when I hear aesthetics, I always think outside, surface level.
Yeah.
Right? Unrealistic expectations lead to future.
Absolutely.
I agree with that 100%.
Absolutely. Unrealistic expectations leads to future resentment. And a lot of times, and I've seen this in a lot of relationships now, is that starting off, people, they dated from a lustful place. Yes. And then they got married, and they're in this marriage because they feel like you're supposed to stay married because they saw their parents be married. So they just stay in this relationship. Both of them are miserable. Maybe they're staying for the sake of the kids, and then you notice a lot of times, especially during COVID, there have been a lot of divorces because I don't know you as a person. I knew you 20 years ago, but you've grown, I've grown. We're now in the house together. You might spend 4 hours with a person, but pre-COVID, whether it's sleeping in the same bed. But when you get to that routine at night where you're cooking dinner, you're helping the kids with their homework, we're running the kids to and from every extracurricular activity they're a part of. Now throw that mix into COVID where everything is stopped. And now I got to look at you in the face because now I'm working remotely from home. And now you got to look me in the face. And I don't know you.
True. See, that can go both ways. Like you said, definitely could lead to divorce.
It's happening. I've seen it happen in my own group of friends. I've seen it happen, whether it's relationships and they're just dating or marriages. And a lot of marriages and a lot of dating relationships have split up because of them having to spend that time with the person that they don't really, really know, even though they've been with them for 15 plus years.
Then my retort would be, what was your foundation based on? Like, come on, like, let's be intentional. Lack of continuous romance and dating your partner can lead to stagnation. And I agree with that. Like, I am a big component of being friends first. Build the foundation. Build it. You want to get to know the person. Granted, you know how people say you never truly know somebody, but I feel like you get a baseline. They were just cohabitating. Yes, that's exactly what they were.
Yeah.
They were roommates.
Roommates, literally glorified roommates. What do you think about that? Because you were saying being intentional. I love that word intentional because I think we should be intentional with all of our relationships, whether they're romantic or not, platonic.
Yes.
So when you say intentional, does that mean, what does that look like in the day in life of a romantic partner? Being intentional. Okay. What are some things that people can be intentional about?
Having conversations about the serious stuff. None of the surface level stuff. How was your day? That's great. I'm not saying don't do that. That's great. Get deeper. Create a safe space, especially if it's an individual who you're still getting to know, because we're all still getting to know people, But create that space if it hasn't been created already, that safe space, and talk about like what really bothers you, like.
Can I put a pin on that for a second? Because I got a question. Okay. When I did Ode to Black Men in the month of November, and the conversations were centered around emotions or grief or mental health, a lot of men reached out to me via DMs, Black men specifically, because this is Heal Black Joy. And they said to me, I don't feel safe talking to my wife, or I don't feel safe talking to my girlfriend, right? So because we as Black women haven't created a safe space for Black men, because, we were groomed that we can be emotional, but we never saw our fathers be emotional. We never saw our brothers be emotional. They would tell them, stop crying. What are you crying for, right? So now we're in this relationship with a man who was never taught how to be emotional or to emote. and we're in a relationship with him, and we're looking at him like, well, talk to us. Tell me how you feel. You know, it's this almost like I'm trying to not bully you in a sense to tell me how you feel, but Black men specifically do not feel safe having, I can't say all Black men, but some Black men, a large percentage of Black men don't feel safe having those real life conversations with their partners, their wives, their girlfriends, because we as Black women have not created a safe space. And that was coming across in that Ode to Black Men month. Black men were hitting me up like, sis, thank you for having this conversation, because I haven't been able to talk to my girlfriend about some things that I've been going through.
See, I wish I was part of that, because it's enlightening. It's sad, you know, truly it is. A lot of men, I can say honestly, their fear of being vulnerable, fear of being judged, you know, fear of I had a client, and excuse my language, they said they don't want to be seen as a bitch. That's what they would specifically say. You know, like, I'm a man, I'm not supposed to have these emotions. I'm just supposed to deal with it, get over it, call it a day. You know, I don't agree with that. That safe space needs to be created, or if you're with somebody who doesn't know how to create that space, you talk to them about how the space can be created. You guys talk about it together, you know. And again, too, this is probably during the vetting stage. Like, you have to have somebody who understands that you have emotions too. As a man, as a Black man, you have emotions too. And there's going to be days where you're going to want to express it, and you want to feel safe doing so with your partner.
Right.
You know?
And how do you express it? So I think it's twofold. I think a lot of times Black men don't know that they can emote. Like, they don't know it's their birthright to emote, because they think they're supposed to perform. Everything is in the doing and not the being, right? Based off of how they were raised. It's like, you're supposed to be doing something, not I'm just okay with you being something. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense,
So I think that's part of it. And then the other part is, from our standpoint as women, we have to create a safe space. We have to ask those questions like, hey, do you feel comfortable talking to me? Or do you feel, how would you like for me to receive? Because a lot of times Black men feel judged.
Yes.
I've noticed that in conversation. And it's like, as Black women, we have to not only create the safe space for our men, but at the same time, in that creating the safe space, we got to hold our tongue and not, you know, start judging like a mother, like, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and why did you do blah, 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 blah. And, you know, we start asking those questions. It's not that we're asking those questions to be judgy or judgmental. We might be trying to troubleshoot and help you figure it out. But I think it's the tone and how we're saying it versus necessarily the information that we're saying. Does that make sense?
Absolutely agreed. And then sometimes women would think that they are creating the safe space, but it's not the safe space that the gentleman would want, you know? So because it's not a puzzle, and because we're not one-on-one, we are a team. This is a teamwork, a partnership.
Yeah.
Ask your partner, what does a safe space look like to you?
That's a good question. What does a safe space look like to you, you guys? Thank you, dating coach.
Thank you, sir.
I feel like we're gonna have to have another one of these conversations, because our hour is up, Val. But it's like, I feel like the more conversations that we have about dating and relationships and Black love, connecting what we could take from the elements of the past and how people dated in the past and bring that forward to today, I think that, you know, we can start having some not only transformative conversations, but maybe we could transform some lives and make some love connections for people that, you know, because of the conversations that we have, because I like to have uncomfortable conversations. And I think the more that we have these conversations, it opens the door for people to start asking questions to their loved ones and to themselves.
Yes. These are neat. I'm telling you, if you guys can get used to having these hard-hitting conversations, your bond, oh, times infinity. I
Right.
promise you.
Right.
Count on that.
So let me ask you this. I know you have the intricacies of dating and relationship podcast. I'm so proud of you for launching that journey.
Thank you.
What else are you working on? What can we tune into? What can we connect with you on?
Okay. So every other Wednesday, I do a Instagram live with my group. It's called Three Guys and a Girl.
Okay.
It's on my
I
page.
saw
So...
it. Yeah.
Oh, see?
Yeah. Really cool.
Thank you. So we have that, and I like it because we do have a lot of uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
And I'll even admit it helps me grow as well. So I love it. Please tune in. Like, we talk about anything and everything. So that's one thing. The podcast finally launched Monday, so I'm very happy about it.
Congratulations, man.
Thank
I'm
you
really
so
proud
much.
of you. I'm really
Thank
proud.
you.
Yeah.
So these are the types of conversations that I want to have on there as well. Like, when we first talked, I said, I'm not a surface level person. I like to get deep. I like to have these conversations, And I feel like that's when we clicked. That's why we wanted to do this.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So please, everybody, tune into that. The intricacies of dating and relationships. Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, wherever you will find it there. And as well, too, as you said in the beginning, I do sessions as well. Solos, couples, understanding your dating scene, whatever it is. Please DM me. I respond to every single DM, so don't be afraid at all. The only thing I ask is that you are ready to do the work. That's it.
Yeah. Be willing, be ready, and be just ready to go forth. Because a lot of times people are not ready to do the work. They say it with their mouths, but in their heart, they're not truly ready to heal. And that's where we are too with Heal Black Joy. It's just like, if you're going to go down this journey of healing your Black joy, I just want you to be ready to do the work. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah. Be ready to do the work. Man, it has been wonderful having this conversation with you. We got to do it again because
Absolutely.
I think, like I said, the more conversations we have about this, we're going to open up the doors for people to not only think differently about love, dating, and relationships, but maybe it will spark some ideas of how to heal their relationships, how to, start and initiate conversations with people that they're in relationships with. And maybe it's a part of the healing journey, So I thank you for giving us your expertise, your experience in this dating, you being the relationship guru. I didn't know anybody else that I would rather talk to and have this conversation with. So thank you for your time and your expertise on healing relationships and love.
Thank you so much. And thank you for introducing me to your tribe. Truly appreciate it.
We love all our Heal Black Joy tribe members. Thank you, Heal Black Joy, for tuning in. Thank you again, Val, for just coming up, showing up, and being who you are.
No problem. Have a great night.
You too. Everybody have a good night.